Hi there, Working Homeschool Mom. This is Charlotte Jones from My Little Homeschool and Charlotte Jones 24/7. And this is episode number 51 of the Strike a Balance podcast for Working Homeschool Moms. And this episode kicks off season 2. I'm very excited for the next 50 episodes. I hope you'll find lots of value, lots of advice, lots of support, and lots of help in your working homeschool mom journey. And remember that you can always reach out with any topic suggestions, any questions, or just to chat. And before we get into the episode, I would be ever so grateful if you could rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps to show the podcast to more working homeschool moms so that I can support them in their journey. Thank you so very much and enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Strike a Balance podcast for working homeschool moms. This is Charlotte Jones. I'm a homeschool coach and homeschooling mom of twin boys. I know it can feel really overwhelming to keep all the balls in the air all the time. So each week I chat about tips and strategies for being a happy and thriving working homeschool mom that you can implement in your life too. I also speak to awesome and inspiring women who manage to juggle homeschooling and work successfully and find out what their secrets are. Be sure to check out my time audit and mindset challenge in the show notes and sign up to my newsletter for lots of cool freebies. And if you ever need to chat, please book in a session with me. I'm so excited for you to be here and I hope you'll get so much value out of this episode. So let's get started. Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, I'm thrilled to introduce our favorite math curriculum to you. CTCMath specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Cathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review, the lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way and not to a test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy to understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach means having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with a practical assessment. This three-pronged attack makes learning so much easier and more effective. Even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results, and ones who were doing okay before are now doing brilliantly. Visit ctcmath.com today to start your free trial. CTC Maths is generously offering my listeners an amazing special. Go to www.ctcmath.com/MLH to get a half-price discount plus a bonus 6 months for free. That's ctcmath.com/MLH. Today, I'm welcoming Melissa Brander back onto the podcast, and we're going to be talking about a really useful topic for us working homeschool moms. I'm super excited about it. Melissa is the creator of Pocket Homeschool. She has a deep passion for lifelong learning and desires to help homeschooling families find their way. She's based in the Midwest, where she homeschools her 2 boys. Welcome back to the show, Melissa. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you again today.
Thank you so much for having me back, Charlotte. I really can't wait to chat with you today, and I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Absolutely. So the topic today is one that I know lots of working homeschool moms struggle with, and that is how to feed our families. So we've all seen the second breakfast memes, and for me, they make me laugh and cry at the same time because my kids never stop eating. But what are some of the other struggles of feeding your family as a homeschool parent that you've come across?
I think some of, like you said, the kids never stop eating, right? And unlike if our kids were in school and they would be having one meal away from us during the day, they still have all their meals, all the snacks, everything. We're responsible for it, and we're there, and we have to think about it. I think the thinking about it is one of the biggest struggles because you can't. It's not like some things where you can just sort of forget about it, right? It's there. It reminds you. You can't take like days off of thinking about what you're going to feed all the people. So it's really just like it can be time consuming. It's a lot that you have to think about, and it happens frequently whether you want it to or not. Which sounds funny. Nobody wants to not feed their kids, but it's there. It's every day. It's really constant, and it's just something that has to be dealt with every day. You can't push it off and say, oh, I'm going to do that later. Like, with laundry, you can push it off like several days if you need to push laundry off, but you can't push off feeding people. So it's really all encompassing.
Absolutely, yes. And it's also the thing about thinking about what to cook as well is also something. So I guess feeding our families we have to do, but then also trying to be healthy and trying to maybe be a little bit creative. I think that also kind of adds an extra layer of stress onto the whole idea of, feeding our families.
Yes, for sure, because it can take up so much mental space, if you let it. I mean, there are a lot of strategies, so it doesn't have to take up so much mental space. But if you're just sort of like winging it all the time, then you're having to make a lot of decisions all the time. Decisions about what food you have, what food you need to get, and what you're going to cook with all that food, how long it's going to take. There's so many like moving pieces to manage when it comes to feeding your family.
Absolutely. And that mental space, I think, as working homeschool moms, we need to reduce that as much as possible. So, what are some ways that we can be proactive about feeding our families?
That's a great question, Charlotte. I think one of the first ways that you can be proactive is just to take a little bit of time on a weekend or whenever you have a little downtime and plan your meals out. Like, if you know what you're going to eat, then it takes a lot of that mental load off. You can just check the list and know what it is. And if you are really feeling strapped, like you don't have time to plan, then just plan in really small bursts. Even what I find helpful is even just sometimes if things have gone completely sideways and I haven't had time to plan, even just in the morning, figuring out what I'm going to make for dinner instead of waiting to dinner to make that decision when I'm tired and it's been a long day and I have like no time to prepare and I just need to do something, even just thinking about it in the morning. So then if there's anything that needs to come out of the freezer to thaw, I can do it and just be ready to go at dinner time where you've already made that decision in advance during a time when your brain is fresh and you're not making that decision on the fly when you're hungry, your kids are hungry, and you have made a lot of decisions already. So your brain is really tired from making decisions. So even if you can't meal plan very far in advance, even just a few hours in advance will help your brain out a lot when it comes to the end of the day.
Yes. And I think sometimes planning can almost become a job in itself. So I find that going super crazy with planning can sometimes become even more exhausting. So I find quite simple planning can really kind of help to ease that mental load, like we said, rather than going like creating every meal for the next month or whatever.
Yes, for sure. I think you got to find the system that works for you. And so whatever amount of time that looks like, it doesn't have to be a long amount of time, but if you can do it before it's something that absolutely this crunch time, it has to be done, even just by like 2 hours thinking about it before 2 hours before dinner, even just that little bit, you'll be able to think about it from a space where you just have a little bit of breathing room and you're not thinking about it like I have to get something on the table in the next 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Yes. So that's so true. And do you have some tips for finding ways to cut, or do you have some tips for cutting time in the kitchen? Because I think this is something that we all need. We plan, but also it's the time spent in the kitchen as well that we maybe need to cut down on.
Yes, I think some great time cutting tips is like throwing things in the crock pot. For me, I use my crock pot a lot, and that's great because I can let it go all day and I don't have to think about it. But even if you don't have a crock pot, just thinking about what you can do that will just shave off a little bit of time. And sometimes that might mean buying something that maybe you wouldn't normally buy because it saves you a little bit of time, like pre-cut veggies or frozen veggies are a great option if it's in your budget to have those things, because Sometimes I find for me, I'm a very slow chopper, and chopping is like the longest step. So if I can get something that's already like chopped and ready to go, because like if you're cooking something up on the stove, you can very easily throw in some frozen veggies and they'll cook up just fine. And then you don't have to worry about the chopping and the peeling and everything else that you have to do. So even just like finding some tiny shortcuts that work for you can be a really big difference.
And I think that you also have to kind of leave the shame at the door, because often we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have these like beautiful, perfect meals. And if you can find a shortcut like frozen veg, there's absolutely no shame in doing that at all. I mean, the amount of time that you save and the mental load is just worth it for, I mean, not that it's bad quality, but people think everything has to be super fresh and whatever. I think it's definitely a good idea to try and be kind to yourself in terms of how you work in the kitchen.
Yes, I think for sure it can be easy to feel like you have to make something elaborate, like three-course meal, everything from scratch. And for me personally, I really do love cooking. So there are lots of times that I want to make that. But at the same time, I have to balance my love of cooking for the practical reality of my family. And especially when you get older kids and they're doing more in the evening, like this has been a new experience to us this year of doing evening activities with our homeschooled kids, because so many homeschool activities are during the day. And then we do have to think a lot more about, okay, what can we put on the table that's really quick, because we have an activity in like 45 minutes. And so that's been a weird adjustment as a homeschooling family, because so many homeschool activities are during the day. But just even having that like flexibility, and if you're able, inviting others in your house to help. I know that my kids, I've invited them into the kitchen since they were little, and now that they're older, I can ask them, I can say, hey, I need to do this thing really quick, can you just stir what's on the stove for me? Like, it's not a lot. I'm not asking them to do huge tasks, but even just having one other second set of hands in there to help with your meal prep, it can really ease on you from like trying to handle all the things on all the burners, literally.
Yes, that's a really good point. So getting kids in the kitchen, I think, is really, really a fantastic thing to do, because there's so many skills that they learn and things like that. So how do you make the kitchen a positive place for them? How do you make cooking a positive activity for them?
That's a really great question. I love to cook with my kids. My kids are 10 and 8 right now. And we started cooking with them when they were really little, because I was like, this is such an important life skill. And I felt like as homeschoolers, we had a little bit of extra time in our day that we could experiment more with cooking. And so just when they're little, just starting them on simple things it's really the way to start when you wanted to make a positive experience for them, letting them have some ownership over what you're cooking. And it may not be giving them all your cookbooks and saying pick a recipe, because when they're little that's too overwhelming. But you can say, I'm going to make this thing or this thing, we have the ingredients, we could do either. You can ask them for their input, because usually if they have helped to pick what you're making, they're usually a little more excited about it. And then as they get older, you can gradually add more skills into that. And I know something that I did with my kids that was helpful is we had kind of a checklist in our kitchen for a while. Like, when you're cooking, these are the steps, like wash your hands, and all those things that you as an adult probably just do without thinking. And I just took some time to break it down for my kids, and I made the checklist so I could break it down once, and then I didn't have to think about it anymore for either of us, because I find that especially when you have a lot going on, when you're working or running a business at the same time, if you can eliminate some of the things that you would have to do all the time, and make one thing, one list for you, for your kids, for anyone, so that you can look at it and not have to be thinking through those steps all the time, then it can allow you to get to the important part of what you really want to do, because the steps are there for you already. And so having that kitchen checklist helped us to be kind of on the same page about what we were going to do in the kitchen and how to prepare, and to be together there in that space, and to know that we were both on the same page for how you act in a kitchen and what are the important things you need to do in the kitchen.
And I love the fact that, as you said, that homeschooling gives you that little bit of extra time to actually teach your kids, because we kind of forget that the life skills do take time to learn. And often when kids are at school, they don't have the opportunities to learn those life skills, like cleaning as well, chores and things like that. They have the opportunity to and the time to learn how to do them properly.
Yes, I think for sure it's really, we have a gift of time. And I know that when you have other stuff going on running a business and working, that time may look a little different. But I would say, from my experience, sometimes spending a little bit of time up front ends up actually saving you time in the long run. And I think that way about meals too. One thing that you could do, another option for meals, is that you could set aside a couple, an hour or two, and throw together some meals in your freezer. There are so many recipes now on Pinterest and other sites. If you just type in like freezer meals, you're going to get like websites that tell you like, here's all these meals that you can make in a relatively small amount of time. And if you incorporate your whole family into that, your kids and everything too, not only would they be learning, but then you have prepared some meals that are ready for you to go when you need them. And I sort of like to keep those in my mind for when it's just been an absolute day and everything seems to be going wrong. Having something that is already ready that I can just pull out, and like kind of a in case of emergency option, that's there for when I need it, for when there's so much going on and I just can't imagine how dinner is going to happen.
Absolutely. And I think so. I think freezer meals are definitely a good option then for really, really busy seasons of homeschooling and also holidays and things like that. How else could you make the kitchen less stressful during busy times, obviously without necessarily resorting to eating out all the time?
Yes, I think one thing that was really helpful for me was finding really simple lunches. I think like a lot of times the focus is on dinner, but what I found is that like with lunch, it doesn't always feel like you want to put in a really big effort to make lunch. But then sometimes I would just be like, cobbling something together on a plate, like little bits here and little bits there. Like, oh, we have like two tablespoons of leftover of this, and like another bit leftover of this, and it wasn't a satisfying meal. So then in the afternoon, my energy would be so low. So finding foods that were really easy that I could do at lunch that were also satisfying, that would give my brain the fuel that it needed to get through the afternoon, was another huge thing that really helped me out in terms of meals. Because I've seen this too. Sometimes, moms at lunch will make something for their kids and then they're just sort of eating the kids' leftovers. But it does so much for you if you can find something simple that you can eat and have a really satisfying lunch. It helps you power through everything that you need to get done in the afternoon.
Sure, absolutely. And do you have any snack tips? Because I think that is a big issue as well, is the second breakfast and the third breakfast and the fourth breakfast, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, I think for snacks, like looking for snacks that are really going to give give your kids the fuel that they need. In my house, we call them brain snacks, and they're just like foods like string cheese or cottage cheese or fruit or other things that are really going to give you a little go ahead, a little extra brain power, because your body is getting the fuel that it needs. And what those brain snacks look like will be different a little bit for every family, but sometimes that's how we distinguish it, how we say like, oh, we're gonna be doing some school here, so you probably are gonna want a brain snack that's really going to help you focus and concentrate and to work, because your tummy is not going to be telling you 2 seconds later that you're hungry again.
I love that. That's such a good name as well, because it has such a positive connotation, I think, especially if they are obviously really nice, healthy snacks. to call them brain food. That's really, really good.
Yes, I didn't just want to be like, eat these healthy foods. I wanted to be like, okay, we are eating these foods to help our brains focus and to help our brains work, and to just make it something fun and positive, and not be like, oh, here are the things that you can't eat. Just reframing the question and saying, what will give my body what it needs now to do the work of my school and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really a fantastic tip. All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. This is fantastic. So before we finish off, though, is there anything that you are working on that you would like to share with the listeners?
Oh, thank you so much for asking me, Charlotte. Anyone who is looking for me can find me at my website, which is Pocket Homeschool, spelled just like the pockets in your pants. Or I have some dresses with pockets now, which is awesome. And one of the things that I work on there is I have what I call the Smart Homeschool Society. And that's a space of really focused encouragement and personalized support so that homeschool parents can really feel empowered and confident in their decisions. We have monthly workshops and text check-ins and a planner, and it's really reasonably affordable. What I focus on at Pocket Homeschool is what I call smart learning, and it's simple to implement, meaningful family experiences, academically oriented, reasonably priced tools for explorative learning. And so I focus on those 5 things in everything that I create, from the blog posts I write to the printables that I make to running the Smart Homeschool Society. So if those are values that resonate with you, I encourage you to check me out. Every Friday, I send out a free newsletter. It's called 5 for Friday, and it'll have 5 ideas in a fast, fun way that you can use in your homeschool. And so I thank everyone who listened to this podcast, and I hope that you'll come visit me over at Pocket Homeschool.
Absolutely. That's I'm so pleased that you started that membership, because I remember the last time we chatted that you were kind of just thinking about it. So that's fantastic that it's launched now, and I will definitely link that in the show notes.
Yes, for sure. It was really exciting to launch it, and I love like meeting everyone because I have office hours. I get to meet all the people who are involved in my membership and get to know them and what their homeschools are like, so I can really be able to offer some personalized support and feedback on their homeschools.
And I think community is so very important in this homeschooling journey. So I think that's really, really great that you're offering that.
Thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate the kind words.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. It was really, really great to talk to you today. And thank you so much for these really practical and useful tips for feeding our families as working homeschool moms. I'm definitely going to implement some of these myself, because it's definitely something I struggle with. So thank you so much for everything you shared today.
Thank you, Charlotte, for having me on. It's been great.
I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Drop me a DM on Instagram or post on the Working Homeschool Moms support group over on Facebook. And let me know what resonated the most with you. It would also be great if you could rate, review, and subscribe, or share the podcast with a working homeschool mom who might need it. It's my mission to support as many working homeschool moms as possible. Until next time, take care. Hi there, working homeschool mom. This is Charlotte Jones from My Little Homeschool and Charlotte Jones 24/7. And this is episode number 51 of the Strike a Balance podcast for working homeschool moms. And this episode kicks off season 2. I'm very excited for the next 50 episodes. I hope you'll find lots of value, lots of advice, lots of support